This video will cover the following objectives from the endocrine system. Discuss how the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland are structurally and functionally related. Describe the structural and functional differences between the anterior and posterior pituitary glands. The hypothalamus regulates the activity of the pituitary gland by producing hormones that are either secreted from the posterior pituitary gland or that regulate the production of hormones released from the anterior pituitary gland. The hypothalamus and pituitary gland are connected through a stalk called the infundibulum. The infundibulum contains the axons of neurosecretory cells located in the paraventricular nucleus and supraoptic nucleus of the hypothalamus. These neurons release hormones known as neurohormones. Oxytocin and antidiuretic hormone are examples of neurohormones that are released from the posterior pituitary gland. Oxytocin stimulates a positive feedback loop during childbirth. Stretching of the cervix activates sensory receptors, and this information is relayed to the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus then stimulates the release of oxytocin from the posterior pituitary gland. Oxytocin binds to receptors on smooth muscle cells in the myometrium, stimulating uterine contractions. These contractions push the baby toward the cervix, increasing cervical stretch. This further stimulates oxytocin release in a positive feedback loop until the baby is born. Oxytocin is also involved in a positive feedback loop that stimulates milk release during suckling. When an infant suckles, sensory receptors in the areola and nipple relay information to the hypothalamus. This stimulates the posterior pituitary to release oxytocin. Then, oxytocin binds to receptors on myoepithelial cells in the mammary glands, causing them to contract. As the infant continues suckling, oxytocin secretion increases in a positive feedback loop until the infant is satiated. While a neural stimulus activates the release of oxytocin, the release of antidiuretic hormone is stimulated by a humoral mechanism when the osmolarity of the extracellular fluid is elevated. When you are dehydrated, blood osmolarity increases due to a higher concentration of solutes in the extracellular fluid. This change is detected by osmoreceptors in the hypothalamus. As a result, thirst is stimulated. The hypothalamus also signals the kidneys to increase water reabsorption. This decreases urine volume and produces a smaller, more concentrated volume of urine. When you are dehydrated, urine becomes darker due to the action of antidiuretic hormone. Antidiuretic hormone travels through the bloodstream to target cells in the kidneys and in arterioles. Antidiuretic hormone stimulates vasoconstriction by causing smooth muscle in blood vessel walls to contract. This increases blood pressure. For this reason, antidiuretic hormone is also known as vasopressin. The name antidiuretic hormone reflects its action in the kidneys, where it reduces urine volume by increasing water reabsorption. The hypothalamus also produces releasing hormones that are secreted into the blood within the infundibulum. These hormones travel to the anterior pituitary through the hypophyseal portal system. Releasing hormones stimulate the anterior pituitary to secrete tropic hormones. Tropic hormones then act on other endocrine glands in the body. One example is thyrotropin-releasing hormone, or TRH. TRH is produced by the hypothalamus and travels through the hypophyseal portal veins to the anterior pituitary. There, TRH binds to receptors and stimulates the release of thyroid-stimulating hormone, or TSH. TRH stands for thyrotropin-releasing hormone. TSH stands for thyroid-stimulating hormone. TSH stimulates the thyroid gland to produce thyroid hormones, T3 and T4. These hormones increase the metabolic rate of the body. Another example is the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. In this pathway, the hypothalamus releases corticotropin-releasing hormone, or CRH. CRH stimulates the anterior pituitary to release adrenocorticotropic hormone, or ACTH. ACTH then stimulates the adrenal cortex to release glucocorticoids, which help the body respond to chronic stress. The hypothalamus also releases gonadotropin-releasing hormone, or GnRH. GnRH stimulates the anterior pituitary to release luteinizing hormone and follicle-stimulating hormone. LH and FSH act on the gonads. They stimulate the production of sex hormones and also promote the production of the sperm and egg cells. Prolactin-releasing hormone, or PRH, stimulates the anterior pituitary to release prolactin. Prolactin, abbreviated PRL, stimulates the mammary glands to produce milk. This is different from the action of oxytocin. While prolactin promotes milk production, oxytocin stimulates milk release during suckling. Growth hormone is secreted by the anterior pituitary in response to growth hormone-releasing hormone, or GHRH. When GHRH binds to receptors in the anterior pituitary, growth hormone is released. Abnormally low levels of growth hormone during childhood result in pituitary dwarfism. In contrast, excess growth hormone signaling during childhood leads to increased growth rate, causing the tall stature seen in individuals with gigantism. Growth hormone stimulates the breakdown of fat to release energy. It also increases the uptake of amino acids from the blood, which are used to build proteins. Growth hormone stimulates cell division, reduces apoptosis, and promotes tissue growth. Growth hormone also has a diabetogenic effect by stimulating glycogenolysis in the liver, leading to increased blood glucose levels. This glucose can be used by cells to fuel growth. The liver also responds to growth hormone by producing insulin-like growth factor 1, or IGF-1. IGF-1 has similar effects to growth hormone, including stimulating cell division and tissue growth. In the hypothalamus, IGF-1 stimulates the release of growth hormone-inhibiting hormone. This creates a negative feedback loop that limits further growth hormone release. Here we see the histology of the anterior pituitary gland. This tissue is composed of glandular epithelial cells arranged in clusters and surrounded by a rich capillary network. The darker staining cells actively synthesize and secrete peptide hormones into the bloodstream. The posterior pituitary is composed primarily of nervous tissue and therefore stains more lightly. It contains unmyelinated axons of hypothalamic neurons and supporting glial cells. Rather than synthesizing hormones, the posterior pituitary stores and releases hormones produced in the hypothalamus. While both structures have numerous capillaries where hormones enter the blood, the posterior pituitary gland is mostly nervous tissue, and the anterior pituitary gland consists of glandular epithelial tissue. In summary, the hypothalamus and pituitary gland are connected through the infundibulum and function as an integrated component of the endocrine system. While the hypothalamus directly releases hormones through the posterior pituitary, it uses releasing hormones to indirectly regulate the production of hormones by the anterior pituitary gland.